Dredge Effect is a custom single-player StarCraft 2 map, where the player controls a dredge ship tasked with seeking out ancient artifact dig sites. Each dig site is controlled by a rival faction, looking to salvage the loot for themselves and score easy resources. I designed Dredge Effect to focus on three main concepts. Open world exploration designed for RTS gameplay, so the player doesn't have to follow a specific path, rather the player is rewarded for exploration and forging their own way. Location-based combat that does not require the player to construct large, expansive bases, while still incorporating classic RTS mechanics within the dredge ship, and a varied style of offense and defense that will take the player from full-scale assault to hurried defense formations in a very short time. The player has several critical choices to make throughout the game. Resources are gained by dredging, however the player doesn't have to hit every dig site. The player will have to choose, based on their current army setup, which enemies can feasibly be taken down at minimal cost. Resources can be spent on upgrading units' offense or defense, unlocking abilities, and training units. Since resources are scarce, the player has to carefully consider which strategies they wish to employ. No one strategy will carry the player through the entire map. However, if the player scouts the enemy factions and balances their army well, they can prepare for just about any eventuality. Special units acquired along the way can make all the difference. I implemented several new systems to change gameplay. The battle cruiser to dredge ship conversion includes removing the Yamato cannon, adding the excavate function, adding dropship capabilities, and anchoring the win-loss condition on the dredge ship staying alive. These changes make the dredge ship act as a mobile command center that the player must put in danger to proceed through the mission. Barracks, engineering bays, and bunkers are dispersed throughout the map. Their ownership is controlled by proximity to the dredge ship, so structures are never a concern. I converted barracks to contain all trainable units and engineering bays to contain all upgrades, so the player can spend less time focusing on building management and spend more time on army structure. Unit and resource balance is critical to make sure the player never feels like they are being overwhelmed or that the game is too easy. I rebalanced the cost of units to provide the challenge of choice, making siege tanks and banshees very expensive, forcing the player to choose between a large army of weaker units versus a small army of powerful ones. The cost of upgrades and abilities reflects the same mentality. In order to max out all upgrades and abilities, the player would have to spend the resources from 6 out of 7 high-yield dredge sites, with little left to spare for units. The player must choose which upgrades are valued for their strategy, or risk wasting resources and being unable to complete the mission. No one strategy will carry the player through the entire mission, however several tactics do stand for Dredge Effect. Reapers can be effective at taking down missile turrets, bunkers, or gaining a flank advantage over large groups of units. Towards the end of the mission, however, Reapers are at a severe disadvantage fighting siege tanks, Thors, and banshees. Siege tanks are always a valid strategy, taking advantage of greater range and high vantage points. However, the added mineral cost in Dredge Effect means that creating a marine siege tank build requires sacrifices to upgrades or other anti-air units. Banshees and Vikings are great for taking out large groups of vehicles, marauders, and other air units, but are consistently at risk of being taken out by other air units or missile turrets. Air units have to be played cautiously as they are very expensive and if deployed too early, might not have enough health for the final encounters. Spending heavily on ground troops like Marines, Marauders, and Ghosts can pay off in having a large army, however Marines and Marauders are most effective after acquiring their upgrades, and Ghosts are only useful after unearthing the cloak ability and 2 nukes from one particular dig site. Aside from scripting all the added mechanics and systems, the AI behavior was carefully scripted so some factions will not attack unless provoked, while others are permanently aggressive, giving each faction a unique personality and leaving room for narrative audio cues. The mission was scripted to create challenging attack waves that the player must defend. Creating a different style of unit deployment for each enemy faction makes each dig site distinct and memorable. The level layout is designed to give the player a natural progression from each dig site to the next, while rewarding exploration and seeking alternate attack options. The decorative doodads and terrain are meant to reinforce the Dredge Effect's theme, wasteland exploration and broken society. Lastly, the player is given several paths to progress through the game. For example, most dig sites yield only minerals, however some reward the player with ancient technology and units. Another example, towards the end of the mission the player will have to choose one enemy base to raid. Taking the path on the left will put the player against an armament of siege tanks, bunkers, and Thors, while taking the path on the right puts them against banshees, Vikings, marauders, and missile turrets. The player needs to assess which base to destroy before reaching the final dig site. Once the player has uncovered the final artifact, victory is theirs. Thanks for watching this video, my name is Ben Faulkner, and please feel free to contact me regarding any questions.